Hi everyone, this is Karen. This week's lesson is going to be a little bit different. Instead of going over some really general things, I'm going to teach you two specific things that you can use in scrapbooking. The first one I'm going to show you is how to create an interesting title. For example, the one that's shown on the screen is a freebie from Miss Kate Cuttables today. I'm going to show you where that is so that if you want to go and find it, you can. Miss Kate Cuttables' website is www.misskatecuttables.com, and if you go and look under freebies, this is right over here, freebie of the day, click on that and you'll see what the freebie is for that day. So today is July 9th. It's only available for free today. Tomorrow it will be put into their for sale section. Let's get back to Sure Cuts a Lot. So what I've done is I've downloaded that file today, and I'm going to show you how you can put different elements together to make an interesting title. I have imported the SVG files here. They had two SVG files. This one up here contained all of the elements split apart, and this one over here with the elements put together in a title. So I'm going to move this out of the way and work with these parts. First thing is that they've got some interesting fonts. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that we can see those better. I'm going to close the library because we don't need that. So those are interesting looking fonts. They're script. One place that you can get really nice fonts is Creative Market. I'm going to show you that. They have free products as well. If you click the Free Goods of the Week link, you can get to there. Let's get free goods over here. And you can see that there are different graphic elements, design elements, fonts. These are free right now. And I often list those on my Crafty Deals Facebook page. But if we go and look at fonts, you'll see quite a number of really interesting looking fonts. A lot of nice script fonts. I have Very Berry, so I'm going to go back to Sure Cuts a Lot, and I'm going to use Very Berry for my design. So I'm going to zoom back out, and I'm going to type the words back to. Okay, so that's just taking it in the font that's displayed here by default, which is Helvetica, but I want Very Berry. So I'm going to press the letter V, move down my list, and here's my font, Very Berry. And you see that it sort of looks a little bit similar. This particular font that they used has more ups and downs. So I'm going to have a look. Go over to my Pinterest page. I'm going to show you my fonts board. So you'll see that there are quite a few that have that sort of a style where some letters are higher up and some are lower down. Here's another example. This one as well, Octavia. Berrylicious is like that. Mulberry. Isabella. Isabella is a really nice one. Most of these really pretty fonts are paid for fonts. They're not available for free, but you can find a lot of interesting fonts that are free as well. Just be careful which sites you go to, because some of the font sites are full of viruses. The font is a good one. It's a safe one. And if you look over here on script, it will show all kinds of different choices. And let's try to find something that's similar in that style where you've got some letters that are higher up than others. See, there's 312 pages of script fonts, so I'm sure you'll find something. that you like. Okay, so then all you do is download and install the font, and then you can use it in Sure Cuts a Lot. So back to Sure Cuts a Lot. I'm going to be using this text. Then for the school, they've used something like a carnival type of font. So let's go back to the font and find something like that. Carnival or circus. So I'm going to type in the word circus in their search field. And look, here's something right here. Okay, so I'm going to use that first one. And all I need to do is download it. And that's going to save that to my computer. I'm going to go put that into my fonts folder. And it's called Circus Zip. So I have downloaded that font and I've unzipped it, but I haven't installed it on my computer. I don't have to install it on my computer if I don't want to. What I can do with Sure Cuts a Lot is I can load the font and use it so that I don't have to have millions of fonts installed on my computer. To do that, I'm going to open up my window, click the library. So now I've got my fonts displayed here. I'm going to click this menu on the far right, and I'm going to choose Load Font. Then I just need to go to my fonts directory. That's the wrong place, sorry. My fonts directory is in here. And I'm going to go and find Circus. Here it is, and I'm going to open it. So it has been added, and I can now go into my font list, search for Circus, and use it. So now when I click text over here and type, I'm going to type in the word school. You can see that it's able to use that font. I'll zoom in so you can see that a bit better. And there's the font I had just downloaded and I have not installed on my computer. So that zoomed back out too far. So there you go. So that's something that looks sort of similar to what is used here. So I'm not trying to recreate this to steal from their design. It's just that somebody had asked me how to create titles that look interesting using different types of fonts and using some interesting elements. So then I'm not going to go into creating a pencil and all, the notebook and everything and the clips and the stars. You could go on the internet and find the other elements, or you can use the designs that you have in Cricut Design Space in the subscription or in your cartridges, and you can use those as part of your title. So the other thing I was asked to show is how to create a mat like this that you would put behind your text. So what I would do is I would select all of my text, I would right click, go to Appearance, and then add a shadow layer. So it has created one that's just around the words, but if I wanted to have the shadow more like this, where it is a shadow of the entire block of text, I would just increase the size. And you see it's already there. Could be a little bit less. And then we just have this little piece, and if you didn't want it, you could always delete that afterwards. And if you wanted multiple colors of that, just increase the layers here, and you see you've got more than one layer already. When you click OK, go back to your design here, and your text will be separate, so you'll be able to cut that the way you want, and your layer can also be separate. Just ungroup it, and now you've got all your different parts to the layers, and that's exactly the same idea as over here. So then the rest of the design elements, like I say, you could find them on the internet. You could search Google and use elements you find there, bring them into Design Space, clean up the elements and then use them. Or there are so many different designs in Design Space that you can use as well. If I wanted to change this font to one of the ones that I was showing earlier that had all sorts of different variations in how the letters are placed, I'm going to come up here and find Isabella. Okay, I thought I had that installed. I don't. I'm going to use the same method to bring that font in. I'll go to my font folder and find Isabella. And I'm going to bring in the OTF version, which is open type. And it's now loaded. So I can choose it over here, type in the letter I to get closer. And here it is. So this has now been changed to Isabella. I'll zoom in a bit so that you can see that better. And you see now how the letters are different from before. I'll zoom back out, and I guess I would want it a little bit bigger than this. And if you preferred the T in the font that we used before, you could always use one font for one word and another font for the other word. Okay, so that gives you an idea of that. And then this word, they had that in two different colors, so let's do that as well. I'll select the word, right click, and ungroup. So that means that now these two are separate. And I can come over here, change the color. Right now it's blue, so I'm going to change it to an orange color or a red color. So they've got it going on there. And I'll change the word back. Okay, it has separated the letters, so I'll select the entire word back, go into colors, and we'll change that one to orange. That's quite a dark orange, so I'm going to change that. Just shows the difference more clearly. And this I'm going to make a little bit darker as well. And then I'll move this over here. And these don't have to be this color. I could change this to a little bit lighter, and I'll make this one the lightest of all. Make it a really light gray. So from there, I could delete the part that I don't need, just keep my design, and to save that for Design Space, I would choose File Export. So I need to save that as an SVG file. I'm going to put that into a school folder. Which I don't have, so I'll create a new folder. Also put it in the wrong place. So let me just click my digital cutting files, and then I'll choose a new folder named School, and I'll save that as Back to School Title SVG. I'll click Save, and then I need to check the Design Space compatible checkbox over here and click OK, and then that's ready for Design Space. So I'm going to go over to Design Space now. sign into my account. Create a new project. I'm going to upload my images, and this is a vector upload because it's an SVG file. So I'm going to browse, go to my digital cutting files, and then my school folder, and there's my file. I'll bring that in. I'll insert the image, and there it is. It always brings it in at the same size it was created in the program that created it. So that's ready to go. And then all I need to do is ungroup these, and now they're individual and I can do what I want with them. Move them around. Of course, this was individual, so this would need to be welded if you wanted to weld them. Or that could have been done in SureCuts a lot as well before exporting. I'll show you how to do that. I'll go back to SureCuts a lot. I'm going to zoom in so that we can see how that's welded or not. If I do a preview, it will show me. You see here how the lines are cutting into the next letters, so that needs to be welded. You don't see that with the color the way it is. Let me select this word. I'm going to select the two of them. There's no stroke, and that's why that's not showing. So if I put a color, now you see the stroke. It looks like it's okay, but it's not. There's a line here. But the best way is always to click preview, and then you'll see exactly what's going on there. Because what's happening is the line here is behind the C. So if I were to choose this and arrange it and bring it to the front, you would see how it cuts in. Same thing with this letter. If I arrange it and bring it to the front, you'll see how it cuts into the K. So what I need to do is choose all of this, and I can either weld it temporarily here in the style panel, and when you click preview, you'll see that that has been welded because those lines are gray. It will not cut into the next letters. Or I'm going to undo that, and I can choose path union and weld them permanently, and then you see that right here on the screen. So now when I go back to saving my file, I'm going to export, and I'm going to use the same name. I'll click replace, and I have to remember to check design space compatible. And now when I go back to design space, I'm going to create a new project. So I don't want to save this. I'll upload my image. This has been updated, so this is fine now. I'll save it. Now you'll see that I have two of them here, so I'm just going to choose the latest one that I imported. And there we go. So now I can ungroup this. And this is all together. It is welded now. Of course, I forgot to weld this, but you would have to remember to weld the pieces that you need to weld. If you come in here and you realize you forgot, just choose both of those and weld them here. And that'll be fine. I'll zoom in so that you can see that. And you can see that it's well, the letters were off a little bit, so I'm going to undo that. So now they're not welded. I'm going to bring the O closer. That's going to be fine once it's welded. Select both pieces and then click weld. And then that's going to be okay. So the rest of this lesson is going to be on tracing images. The first thing you need to learn about is what type of image makes for a good trace. Most of the time, an illustration will create a much better trace result than a photograph. Something like what you're seeing on the screen now is a photograph. I'm going to show you the difference. In this case, I just searched for cat and dog. Now I'm going to search for cat and dog illustration. And when I click images, you'll see that the lines are more defined. For example, here you have a dark outline around the entire image. Same thing here. Or here, they are dark completely, and those will trace very well. I'm going to find you some that are going to cause problems. This type of thing will definitely cause problems because you can see holes in the images. What that will cut is a thin sliver here. It won't cut out a dog. Same thing here. Whenever you've got an open path here, that will not fill in with color. In fact, I think this image also has those problems. Let me look a little bit closer. Chances are, it looks like right over here between the two toes, there's a spot with an open path, as well as over here. And there might be others as well. So those could cause you problems. I'm going to find you some more that would cause problems. In this case, if you're doing a print and cut, then you're okay because you'll be able to create a cutting line around the entire thing. But if you wanted to create something where you've got a separate cat and a separate dog, this would cause you problems because there's not enough contrast between the colors. You need a lot of contrast to be able to separate things. Here's an image that would probably work quite well if you wanted to separate different parts and piece them together. Cut them out in different colors and piece them together because you have a lot of good contrast between everything. So I'm going to choose something now. Let's choose this image over here, which is a silhouette of a dog and a cat. Even though it's small, it should work well. I'm going to save the image. I'm just going to put this into my temp folder, and it's called Stock Illustration. So I'm going to bring that into Shortcuts a lot. And to trace, there's a trace icon right up over here. You can also choose File and Trace Image. Either one works exactly the same way. Then you click the Choose an Image button and go to where you had saved your file. What was this called again? It was Stock Illustration or something like that. Here we go. There's that image, and I'm going to open that up. And you see where the red line is? That's what is going to cut. You can change some details here. In this case, you're only dealing with a single color, black, so automatically the program chooses monochrome. You can increase the contrast if you want, but there's no need to because it's black and white. Can't be more of a contrast than that. If you increase the smoothness, then you're going to have a much smoother trace. And you can see right around here where the tail is, that's made that quite smooth. Let's zoom in and have a look at that. Okay, I want to show less of the source so that you can see that. And then I'll zoom in a bit more, and I'll move over this way. Just a bit more. And you'll see that there are some white edges there. So the cut, and here as well, it's more obvious here. And here there's some gray that goes outside the lines. So that line has been smoothed by the program to give you a nice smooth cutting line. So if you increase the smoothness, let's bring that up to 90% to exaggerate. When I update the preview, you see that that's even smoother now. If I decrease, I'm going to type in 50, and I update the preview, the lines are tighter now. There are more edges to the lines. You see right here, this is more of an edge to the line rather than a curve. Let me bring it closer so you can see that better. Same thing on the tail here. But let's go right over here, and you'll see this is a straight line up and across. And if I change this value to 80 again and update the preview, watch how this becomes much smoother. Okay. As far as detail goes, if you have small shapes in your image, let's zoom back to where we were. We don't really have small shapes in this one. If you had, like, if his eyes were cut out, there was a small circle for his eyes, and you bring the detail way down, then you might not get that circle. Anyway, this is something that you can play around with these numbers and see what you get. I have played around with the single line threshold, and I find that it really doesn't make any difference whatever setting you choose for that. If you want to add the image layer, you can do that here, so that if you're doing a print and cut, the detail of the image is included when you trace this. So I'm going to click add the image layer. In this case, it will just bring in that black. I'm going to update the preview, and everything is good here. I can show how many nodes are going to be created. You see all the nodes here, and it tells you how many nodes there are. You can crop the image by clicking the crop icon over here on the far right, and you can make the image smaller. You can zoom in so that you can see more detail in what you're doing, and you can zoom back out or back to where it started from. Okay, so I'm going to import that, and now you see that the image has imported very well. You can increase the size because now it is a vector image. You won't lose any detail in making it larger, but it was a small image to start with, and it's not the most detailed image that you'll be able to trace. I'm going to show you a preview, and I'm going to delete the printable from the preview. Now you see only the cutting line. If you were to print this, this shows you what will print. The black part will print. So I'm going to try another image now. Another way to get a good type of image for tracing, depending on the type of detail you need, is you could search for silhouettes. So let's say I wanted to have a rabbit. So I can type in rabbit and then silhouette, and it will find me a whole bunch of rabbit silhouettes. When I click images, I can choose from all the different silhouettes I find here. And then these are very easy to trace because they are high contrast, and that will work really well. So let me find something that should work quite well. Oh, let's do this cat image. This will work really well. There are good lines around it for contrast, and the colors have enough contrast as well. And it's a nice large image, and it has a transparent background. So I'm going to save this image. It must be a PNG. In temp, and it starts with DC. So I'm going to go back to shortcuts a lot. I'm going to open the trace window. I'm going to choose the image. It's this one over here. Okay, and I'm going to turn off the nodes here because I don't want to see those. You'll see that you now have more choices over here. For one thing, if you wanted to bring this in as a single color, I prefer to turn off the alpha channel. I find that it gives me a better result. And there you can see what is going to be traced. I use the alpha channel. Now I don't have those double lines on the inside, but notice it is not tracing the whiskers in here. If I turn off the alpha channel and I update the preview, now it's tracing all the details wherever there's enough contrast. There's not enough contrast between the orange and the white, so there's no trace line there, but you can see that there's a trace line for the eyes, for the nose, for the mouth, the whiskers, and again here, the ear, the inside of the ear, there's no trace line. You could also choose to do color layers, and then when you update the preview, it's not going to look much different to you here, but look at these colors that have been added here. There's going to be a layer for each of these colors, and you can change the maximum number of colors. You can also choose a lower number of colors if you only wanted to trace one of the colors. Let's have the 5 colors up here, and then I choose not to trace the black or the orange or white. When I update, you'll see that only the red is being traced. Okay, let's try this and trace the black, but not the other colors. And you'll see that now only the black is being traced. As well as over here, you can see that there is a black line there. Let me zoom in. You'll see that there is a line around the black here and here. So let's import this. I'm going to click OK. I'm not going to add the image layer for print and cut. And you'll see it's only brought in the black layer. I'm going to go back to that same image. Only this time I'm going to bring in all of the layers. And once you ungroup this, you will see that you have a layer for each of the colors. So there we go, we've got all those colors, and you can piece those together. If you wanted to bring that image in as a monochrome, you could do that as well. Same image, only I'm going to choose monochrome, update the preview, and so now this will bring this in as one layer. It's an outline of the shape. So I'm going to show you one more thing with that same image. This time I'm going to choose single color, and what you do is choose a color in the image that you want traced. So you see it chose that peachy color. So now I'm going to choose the red, which is the nose. Now I'm going to choose the orange, which is the face. I'll choose the black, which you saw earlier was the black layer, and I'll choose the white. So that can be interesting as well. I want to bring it in as a monochrome, which means it's going to do an outline for me, but I want to keep the image layer so that I can do a print and cut. Now I'll update the preview. Okay, I do want the alpha channel selected because I don't want those double lines. And I have add image layer checked, and I'm going to click OK. And that has now brought this in as a print and cut. So if I click preview and I ask it to show me my print and cut registration marks and the print margins, I can see where this is going to end up on my page. If I clear the checkbox for show printable, you'll see the cut lines. This will be printed when you print it to your printer, and then your cutter will cut around the cut lines. There is yet another option, and I'll click the trace button. I'm going to choose that same image. And this time, instead of adding an image layer, I'm going to choose blackout and update the preview. Nothing looks different. But now what you have is just the blackout, the outline of the image. There's nothing to ungroup. It's just one piece, which is an outline of what you've got. Now, if you wanted to create a shadow layer for your print and cut image, you can do that using this. I'm going to show you what to do. So I've already done the blackout. We'll leave that there. I'm going to go back and trace again. Choose the same image again. Only this time, I'm going to leave him as he is here. I'm going to clear the blackout checkbox, and I'm going to check add image layer. I'll update my preview. I'll bring this in. This is my print and cut image. So I'm going to move this out of the way for a second, just to show you that when I click preview, it shows my print and cut registration marks. This one can be used as an offset or shadow layer for this one. Right now it's the same size, so we need to change that. I'm going to choose the blackout image, right click, choose appearance, and add shadow layer. As you can see, it has already thickened the lines here with the gray. And if I click OK and then move the cat over this, you'll see I have a shadow layer. So as I was showing earlier, you can create layers. So I'm going to click appearance again, add a shadow layer, and I'm going to click the layer count button to create more layers. Then I'll click OK, and I can bring the cat over here. And once I've cut out all these layers, I can have shadows behind it. And of course, I can cut those out in whatever color I want. And I can take all of this, break apart, so that I have the separate shadow layers. When I place it over this very dark one, you'll see that's a little bit smaller. This is a little bit smaller. So that is it for the lesson for this week. I hope this has been helpful to you. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave me comments below of the types of things that you would like to see included in lessons. The first part of today's lesson was a suggestion from someone, so that was included, and I would really like to help you learn as much as you can. Please subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for next week. Thanks again.